There's only profits and losses. Some of the stuff was later in the year.
Okay.
This is all live, right? Okay.
Yep.
You know, on the stuff that Jen would be so interested in. Oh, you sound terrible.
Oh, I'm much better.
Thank you for staying home. What was the attendance? I was wondering what the attendance rate was today.
My hearing is
Or absentee rate.
I don't know. It seemed like it mostly tore through before break.
Oh,
Everybody we had before, including
yeah. No,
my
it
kids.
toward here. Or short.
Hi, guys. We missed you for a moment.
you kicked me out.
That was my bad. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Things happen.
Right.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
All right. Good evening. I'm RJ O'Leary. We're here for the January 5th, 2026 Audit Committee meeting. All board members are present except Robin Willoughby. And we have Colleen DiCaprio joining remotely. Thank you, Colleen, for joining.
Of course.
I'll just run through our agenda items. So first is minutes from November 3rd. I don't recall if those were posted anywhere yet. So we might need to put those up. I don't think we have those in our materials, but we can circulate those.
Okay.
Or did you circulate and follow me? I'm missing them.
I didn't attach maybe what I sent to Jessica. I have them here if you wanted to.
We can, yeah, we can circulate them after the meeting by email, and then if anyone has any questions or concerns, just let us know.
Of course.
Next up, we have the claims auditor reports. Anything you want to say about those, Colleen?
No, typically what I've been doing now, when you get the claims auditor's reports on the exceptions, if I have comments to what's been noted by the claims auditor, I will put it over in the district notes, just so there's some more clarity on some of those exceptions. Majority of them are those items that are pretty much capital project related in this claims exception, and then one or two, obviously, that are related to either health and safety or some items that were previously covered by Joe Mayo, which again is in the operation of the capital project.
Right. Yep. All right. I didn't see anything worth mentioning on this batch of them.
No.
Okay. Next up, we have 24-25 state aid output reports and analysis. So what I think I mentioned when we were starting our new committee year that we're going to try and do some educational components as part of audit committee meetings. So for this meeting, Colleen will give a overview of some things that we should know about state aid. Right. So Colleen, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so what this is going to be is in relation to the 24-25 state aid output reports analysis and the review. So typically what happens, as we all know, we present all of our financial data from 24-25, upload it through our ST3 financials. The state then takes that, compares it to what the projections were from 25-26, based on projected expenses that were put in last year. The key takeaways with the output reports this year is really there's not that much change. Our net state aid revision was a little under $136,000 as a deficit, but primarily majority of that was $90,000 in building aid. Well, if we look at our building aid is timing, right? What you submit as finals, your final cost reports, what they estimate based on what we submit financial data to the state. We just submitted our transportation project as well as our 2 EPC projects and just got them in for the 12/31 filing. So what you see as far as a negative of 90,000 will trend positive toward us moving forward because of those final cost reports that were filed. So the net takeaway when we get down to it is really a small minimal portion of loss of aid, which was really your private excess cost aid, which is tied to your private placements, which was really a small amount of 42,000. And then the offsets were in our public excess cost aid and our BOCES aid. Overall, when you look at it, it's a little less than 1.5% differential, which again is not material. It's something that I know we can make up during the year through revised building aid estimates that should be coming in probably by the February database, which comes out in another month or two. So those will be reflective. Foundation aid has stayed the same. That's really a formula driven, and they didn't expect anything to change there unless our enrollment really changed. But we're on a home harmless provision, so nothing really was going to change there.
So we're hold harmless for this year. Next year, we are not considered hold harmless.
Yeah,
Correct.
that was gonna be one of my questions was, this is probably gonna change in the state budget unless there's some serious advocacy.
So we saw some changes of districts, and one of the projections that was coming out is that some districts that were hold harmless this year are not considered hold harmless in the following year, and that's due to enrollment changes. So we have changed so much in enrollment components and other things that we are not considered hold harmless any longer for next year at this moment, which can be a good thing because then it changes our aid ratio. So it can be more positive because then we're not capped in.
So you could get like 38% instead of 36%
or 1.8% instead of 1.6%, right? And so it's not going to change everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be, it could add a little bit more. Elaine, am I misspeaking at all?
No, you're 100% correct. And we'll talk, that's part of our budget presentation as well, where you'll see some of those factors that changed, which are in our favor. So you'll see that, which will give us a little slight more edge on the aid.
Yeah, during the superintendent's report, we'll share some of that, but that is going to be changing for us. And
Yeah.
it could change more depending on the governor's. This is based on current policy formulation.
100%.
And so going back to the building aid, what you're saying for 20, or for our really 27 fiscal year, that's going to be a net positive once
Yes.
the aids are rolling in on the capital projects.
Correct.
Okay.
Because of the timing of those final, so the state bases your building aid like 18 months from what they call your commissioner approved date, or then key benchmarks such as your SA 139 filings. So within last year's budget, which was presented for 25-26, that timing, because our final cost reports weren't filed, I'm going to assume by September, our transportation project ran a couple months over. So we really hustled and got those in for December so that we could get a full year aid. So we're positive in that respect.
Okay, that's good. And then the private excess aid, that, if I'm following you, is because we're due less money in BOCES reimbursements because we're spending less on private tuition costs for students. Is that
Correct.
right?
Correct. For the number of placements that we have for private costs. So when we projected in a prior year ST3, we probably projected a little bit higher, where our actual placements came in probably 1 or 2 students lower.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Anyone have questions on this summary document?
No, it took me a second to realize that in this case, more is in red, which looks worse, but it's actually better. Right?
If we're spending less, if we're getting less back.
As your expense-based aids. So everything is tied to your expense-based. So the favorite phrase is you spend to get. So some of those cost areas were lower than what was initially projected.
All right. Anyone else have questions, comments? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
for getting that by that deadline too.
No, not a problem. I like to see our money come in.
Thanks, Colleen. All right. And then last item we have was the school lunch fund profit and loss. Any comments there, Colleen?
So I'd like to say when you look at the profit and loss, we are trending positive. I mean, we're like $4,000 to the good for November. Our meals, if you look at our meal counts, they are significantly higher. So in that respect, that our aid is coming back in from the state for the reimbursable is covering those increased costs pretty much. So we're trending. I think the positive note is the meals continue to increase as far as participation rates. So, you know, our kids are getting fed, and our loss was compared to last year was $60,000. Last year was our year-to-date loss, where this year is $12,000. Significant difference.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone have any questions on the profit and loss for school lunch fund? Until now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that covers the agenda items we have for this month. I think our next meeting will be in March.
This.
Okay, great. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
With that, we have stated that we roll into, so we can go directly into a full board meeting. We don't have any student board members who are able to join us today, so we are completely here. Are you texting Jess?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we start without her? or
Yeah,
should
I
we
can,
take notes?
I can take notes for it.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we're gonna start the full board meeting. And go from there, and we're gonna pace ourselves a little bit more slowly so that Frank can both participate and take notes, because that's a lot to juggle. So does that suit everyone?
We are recording on the hour.
We are recording on the outro.
We hope.
I can hit record up there just to make sure I'm at both. Give me 2 seconds.
Someone take notes?
No, I got it. I'm actually the backup for her. Believe it or not.
It falls in the other duties. So
Just to make sure we have that.
with that, we will begin with item 1.3, the Pledge of Allegiance. There is a flag in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all. Today, our attendance is, thank you, Jess, for being here. That was like a little miracle.
I know.
Our attendance is not quite complete. We have a member who's not able to be with us. And Robin is not here today, and 2 student board members, neither of them were able to join us. So that's the question. We have the item for the good of the board discussion, 1.5. Does anyone have anything to provide for the good of the order? So welcome back and a happy new year to everyone. It's another start. We have a school new year start, and new year start. And hopefully folks are either avoiding the bugs that are going around or recovering from them quickly and staying home if they are not well. So please do all that you can and be well and recover quickly. We move to item 2.1, the opportunity for the public to be heard. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Education as it mentions in the agenda. If anyone in the public would like to come to address the board, yes, they start with their name, but don't mention specific individuals or persons. Good. Okay. Typically now we would move to the student board member report. As I said before, we don't have anything today. Share.
No, they did not.
Okay, we look forward to hearing from them in February, on Groundhog's Day. So, and we can just do that meeting multiple times, right?
Just kidding.
With that, we move to the superintendent's report. Frank, would you
All
take
right.
it for us?
I have a few things, and I also have the initial budget presentation that we'll get to in a moment. But very exciting. First and foremost, I want to talk about transportation for a minute. Over the past year in transportation, our staff have done a really good job with staffing issues. Like many school districts across the region, across the state, across the country, we have struggled with staffing with our bus drivers and getting bus driver staffing. We have been overall in better places than some of our neighbors and some of our, other school districts. But that can change rapidly. So we are expecting that this is going to change for us. We have an upcoming retirement. We have staff members that are getting, people can get ill, they can get flu, they can get sick, things happen. When that happens, we run very thin. We have our mechanics that are also drivers. We have our drivers, but we always could use more drivers. We are actively looking at 100 different possibilities and ways to do it, looking at possible contracts out that can be extremely expensive if we even get bids on those. But there's a lot of things that can come up. I just kind of want to mention it a little bit, that unfortunately, there are possibilities of double up routes. There's possibilities of staggered arrival. Like let's say a route is running late and we have to do it. We might end up staying with, route 7. Your child's going to be picked up between 7:35 and 8 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock and 7:35. Those are possibilities that can come forward. They would not have any issue on the child or any, attendance against them. But these are unfortunate side effects of low staffing shortage. And we are trying everything. We're going to be doing fairs. We're going to be all these other things. But as every other district in the area is, not one district is saying I'm fully staffed. But here's my plea though: if anyone has a CDL, if you want to drive for us, if you've ever driven for the district, if you're interested in driving, we are more than welcome to have anybody come to us and learn about it. Driving a bus is not as bad as people think it is. If you've driven a camper, that's not a tow behind. I'm saying just a regular camper. You can drive a school bus. It's actually easier than driving something that's tow behind because you don't worry about jackknifing a school bus, right? You can't. No, but if you drive a camper or something that tows, it's a lot harder.
The backing up.
Yeah. And I was talking to a bus driver too. They're saying, "Oh, it's so much easier than I ever thought." So,
Unfortunately, none of us legally can be school
that
bus
is
drivers.
correct.
So
You could not be school bus
if you are
drivers.
a board member and you want to become a bus driver, you have to decide.
Yes. But anybody who watches this video, hears this video, or hears it, we are more than welcome to having anybody just come in and even meet with the transportation people just to hear about it. So that's my plea, and just kind of talk about it.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
transportation question? So
Yes.
I think I've brought this up before. Some districts I've heard have surveyed parents to see whether they will refuse, for lack of a better word, transportation.
We have looked into that.
Have we thought about that?
We have looked into that. I did speak to council about that at one point as well, because there's some advisement on that end that we are legally obligated to give it even if a parent does refuse. So even if, say, we have parents refuse transportation, that doesn't mean that it's going to stop the routes, because we don't have a driver to even go on route. Let's say it's route 6. We don't have a driver for route 6, even if there's 5 kids on that bus, we still need to get those kids to school. So it comes down to, it doesn't matter how many students it is, it matters about the groups. That becomes an issue. And it's also, again, I think people forget, is we're more than just our typical routes. We are our out of district placement routes, we're our CTE placements. During the day, we have kids going back and forth all over the place. We also do our private schools. So, we're sending to private school, we have to do that transportation. So it's more than just it is. So it's more than just our morning and afternoon rooms. It's all of those. So if we don't have, let's say, a CTE driver or one of the drivers who do our own district runs, we still have to possibly double up because we still need those lessons. And, I think everybody who can drive is currently driving. So we're always looking for ways and asking our aides and assistants if they're interested as well. But that's where it is. But yes, you're right. There is ways to do that, but it doesn't stop the fact that if a driver's not here to drive that bus,
Yeah.
we're still the same. Does that make sense? So, and I do foresee some spring issues. Colleen, am I missing anything on this?
No, you're 100%. We are, as Frank mentioned, we are investigating all options and even looking at piggybacking and reaching out to other districts to try to combine some of those private routes or other issues that we can do.
And we
Everything
already
we
do
can to help each other. Yeah.
where we do that for them because they've already gotten into the route, or
Right.
they do it for us. So hopefully we can still build upon it. Right? I think it's going to get worse as the season goes on, especially with illnesses and sicknesses.
Yeah.
2 drivers down with the flu. Let's remember there's 50 kids on a bus, and they're driving those elementary students. They're there, right? They are right in the middle of it. They love that. Everything over there they love. That's amazing. The snow sweepers are good incentives. Like, come work for us. We have a snow sweeper. But unfortunately, I don't think that works. So, all right. So let's talk about the elementary school and the capital project. Before I do that, I do want to talk about room. Oh my goodness gracious. Is there 146, Colleen? The science room?
145.
145. I was very close.
Yep.
So 145, we had a coil burst in the univentilator of the UV, you'll hear me say, which over the weekend, this was a couple weeks ago, ended up happening was it floods the room and creates water damage, and it's also extremely hot. So it also adds humidity and water damage that way. So as I went into the room, the ceiling was actually leaking because there was so much condensation and moisture in it. So we did have to have people come in, remediate the room, insurance involved. The ceiling tiles got replaced, and the wall got replaced, the flooring got replaced, because to do it right, you have to make sure that you're doing it. The room is still inoperable because we're waiting on coils that are on back order. They should be coming in soon, we're being told. But the teacher is actually doubling up in another room. It's been working out pretty well. So that is good, but that room is still, unfortunately, almost fixed. But not fully fixed at the moment. We're just waiting on coils so they can come in. It's out of our control. Elementary schoolwork. So the schoolwork continues. I'm gonna use words to help us get a new word. So the old transportation facility, new one's here. Old one at the elementary school is going to be the new cafeteria. So when you hear me say new cafeteria, that's what I'm talking about. That's been tented off. So if you walk by and you see it, there's a lot of plastic hanging over the building. They have salamanders and heaters building into that. That's where a couple salamanders are big, giant, basically heaters.
Oh, the heat guns?
Yep.
Okay.
So they're pushing heat into those rooms for a few reasons, for concrete, for masonry, for work like that to get done. So the good thing is the masons have mobilized. So they're going to start doing the exterior block pretty soon. So that's positive in that room. Also, the plumbers have broken ground in there. So they are installing sanitary piping. So again, another positive moving forward in that area. The old cafeteria, now that's elementary school. And I'm going to say that old cafeteria hallway. So that is the old cafeteria, the old kitchen, the old entranceway, the old where a kids club office used to be, and then band room and storage room areas. So that area is actually getting very close to completion, believe it or not. I mean, it still needs a lot of work, it looks like, but it goes very quickly. They've sheetrocked, the electric's done, all those components are done. So that was supposed to be released in February to us. Still looking like that, those rooms will be released in February. So that music, the new music rooms, the new art room, and the new band room, we're still looking at a February release to us. And that could be mid-February, still happening. The nurse's office, which is the old transportation office. If you went in, you went around the corner, there was a transportation office there. That transportation office is now the new nurse's office. So that new nurse's office has tile on the walls, it has ceiling tile, it has fixtures, and it has tile on the floor. So that's getting closer to being done. That room is almost completed and ready to go. That's positive. The main office entrance area, that one's gonna take a little while because they had to blow out half the wall to add in the new hallway, and there's no roof over one part where the conference room is going to be. There's currently no roof there because we had to take it apart and have it. So
It's really picky.
yeah, you need a roof, but we're getting close on those things. So it's years, we're starting to see some movement. So the old music rooms, now I'm moving up the building. So room 201, 202, they're on the second floor around the bend. And the old science room, 304, and the old art room, which is 316. So if you're looking at the building on this left-hand side, 201, 202, and then 304, and then 316. 201, 202 had the cabinets installed over break. So the cabinets for the new classrooms are there. Those cabinets are going to be able to house third and fourth grade. So they are the third grade and second grade. So there's actually cubbies in those rooms. There's 28 cubbies in the walls. So they took out all the old stuff. So, and you wouldn't even realize, it looks really nice. I was going to take a picture for you, but the music teacher's already, it's all piled up. So it's not as nice as it was.
So those are third and fourth grade?
Second and third,
Second
sorry,
and third.
or first, but it can be for elementary age below locker room level.
Right,
like,
so they don't need lockers.
They don't need lockers. They have
Okay,
cubbies in the
thank you. That
room,
was fine.
all self-contained in the room. It's actually really nice. So that's, and that's about 28, 29 cubbies in each of those rooms. So it's more kids than we would anticipate, but always better to have more than less. Room 316 and 304 also got the cabinetry. The floors are not done in those. So the reason why we're not doing the floors is because that's going to take more time, and I don't want to put more stress on the teachers in those rooms. So we're actually going to do those floors during the summer instead of doing them now. So it's not worth it for people to have to pull everything out, pull it back, and create more stress. It's easier just to get it all backed up in the summer and then go out, so that people don't feel like that constant pressure of trying to fix things. So floor's not done, cabinets are positive. And lastly, the heating and cooling for the univentilators in room 201 and 202. So the music rooms, they used to get like 95 degrees or 100 degrees, now had univentilators, similar to that, much bigger though. They're pumping out heat. The AC piping's not in because we're waiting on other units still, but we're getting closer. And so those are, so that really is it for construction. Questions? Try to be comprehensive today. Colleen, did I capture everything?
You're good.
All right. All right, now I'm going to try. Do you want to present, Colleen, or I can do it?
You got it.
Yep.
Very exciting, the first budget presentation of the year.
I got this. Nope, I don't have it. Hold on, I can get this. There we go. I have to share it through here.
You go.
All right, so first things, before we begin, I have to give credit where credit is due. Colleen has taken my old slideshow, which, as everybody knows, I'm not the best when it comes to slideshows, and actually prettied it up really nice and made it very comprehensive. So this is a new slideshow that she helped develop, so I cannot take credit for how nice it looks. So I will state that first and foremost. So, Colleen, I'm going to jump in. You jump in whenever you feel like it.
We'll let you go. Yep.
All right. So first things first. This is the first presentation. It is not our proposed budget. I want to be very clear. This is just about timing and framing. So it's about getting over timelines, talking about some assumptions, some financial realities that we'll end up seeing. My goal tonight is to make sure the board and community understand how we get to a budget, not where we are with the budget, like not where our budget finally is, because there's too many outstanding components there.
Process, not particulars.
Process part, not particulars. I love that. The way that I always like to start, especially now, is to start off with our vision statement. You know, when we talk about numbers, we talk about our staffing, our facilities, we're really talking about participation, opportunity, and access. That's what we're discussing. So when we talk about all these things, this is where we are. We're at this. When we talk about our mission statement, it's the academic, social, and developmental. It's a safe and supportive learning environment. Budget planning is about situation, sustaining the mission, not simply maintaining the status quo. So that's really important, is that we sustain this and continue to build upon this mission as best as we possibly can, even when there's difficult budget years. So we have our goal statements as well that we put on as the board. So I always have these as well. So we talk about student achievement. And it's not just test scores, that's access to programs, instructional supports, and opportunities for students to rely on. And all these things do cost money, right? As we review these requests, we always ask this one question: does it support student learning and growth? The next goal is staffing. Staffing remains the biggest cost driver in a district. Recruitment, retention, and professional growth are essential, especially in a competitive labor market. This is where a majority of budget goes, year after year after year. Even when costs are not adding positions, contractual steps increasing the benefits do cost. So even if we're not adding, we're still increasing cost year over year. Next one, we talk. You like the piggy bank? Tell them they like your piggy bank.
Well, it all comes down to what's in the piggy bank. Yep.
Exactly. So, and that is being a stewardship. Being financially responsible does not mean avoiding investment. It also means that we're aligning our spending with priorities. We're making sure that we plan beyond a single year, and we understand that some funds are restricted or already committed. And that's one thing I'm going to be talking about this whole presentation, is that year over year, the majority of our funds are already allocated to spending. And I'm going to talk about that, and Colleen's going to talk about it, but it's not like a business where we compound money and money's carried over year over year over year. It doesn't work that way. It's about sustaining what we currently have without losing what we currently have and seeing if we can add more if possible. So that's really the trick of this game. Also, we talk about being open in a rigid process for us as a district and our communication. So again, this is how we start these processes. And questions and feedback are not just welcome, they're expected. So please stop us at any point in time during these presentations. These are workshops for us as a board, and Colleen and myself to work together. So really, I just want to kind of reiterate our goal statements, our vision, and all these different things. Any questions so far? Colleen, do you want to take this one, our budget planning timeline?
Sure. So this is basically some of those key highlights when it comes to our budget planning for the next upcoming school year. The key part always starts with the governor releasing her executive budget by January 31st. That's the initial proposal. As we all know, the more key basis will become in March or April when she does the enacted, but that January 31st database or proposal provides us like that stepping off place to start preparing for what we think the governor is going to give as far as funding wise. Then in February is really the next session where we'll dive into more numbers. We'll have our first initial blush of numbers that we can present as far as what has been given to us by department managers or what they are looking for and how that ties in to what we have as far as maintaining our current spending level and what we have for programming. Then on the 23rd, you have the Board of Education candidates petitions available, and then some other key marks.
I'm going to cut you off for 2 seconds and let's jump in real quick. Just so everybody is aware, when the governor's runs come out, those are the ones that we use as our basis, right? So any projections we're not using, we kind of throw those away and we use the governor's runs as our projected amounts.
Right.
Governor's runs in past years have usually been the doom and gloom. And then you get a little bit more legislative. Over the past few budget cycles, the governor's runs have pretty much been exactly what you get. So we're really not seeing, if we see an increase, like we get 10,000, maybe 20,000 more, maybe 30,000, but you're not seeing a giant shift between the governor's run of 2% and then all of a sudden the legislative budget comes out and after the enacted budget is, you're seeing 3%. It's that, those days are gone. Typically what you're seeing with the governor's run is really what you end up getting nowadays. So even though we use the governor's run, we're hoping for more. Be honest with you, really, that's the set that we play with. Does that make sense?
Also, that date of the 3rd is probably the 2nd of February.
She just didn't want it to have to be grown.
Oops. And also at that February 2nd board meeting, we have Bernie Donegan, our fiscal advisors, who will be presenting our long-term financial plan as well. So they'll be visiting us on that same day. So going along. Are you good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. And then another key part of the whole development of the budget is your tax levy limit and what we can actually raise our taxes to if we needed to, based on a number of factors. As you all know, there's a complicated process when you get to the tax levy limit. Although, the state declares it's 2%, there's exclusions and other items that come into that formula every year, which obviously doesn't necessarily always look like a 2%. So that's where it gets a little confusing, but we are tied to restrictions on that, on what we can and cannot include as far as exclusions. And then obviously in April the 24th is that final date where we adopt the property tax code for presentation and submission to SED.
Okay. So where are we and what is our process today? So we have met with our building administration along with those people have met with their department supervisors. There's been internal conversations that have went through. Colleen and I then met with all of those people. We have draft budgets and went over their ideas and suggestions that deal with physical. What's that? So department supervisors as well, busing, facilities maintenance, facilities upkeep. So we've done all those items. Kelly and I are now taking all those things. We're looking at our board goals. We're taking our perspective increases, and we're trying to figure out what that budget looks like. By February, we'll know where our potential gaps are. If we have a deficit, where that deficit is, and how we would make up that deficit. So that's really where that conversation will start. We are not there yet. I don't want to say it's looking good or bad. It's looking like a budget. We're moving forward. I'm not overly concerned, but as Colleen and I are, we've been in places where it's been, you can see the writing on the wall. I'm not there. I don't know if Colleen feels the same way. I think Colleen feels the same way I am, but we need to look at what it all ends up looking like when we have all the numbers in front of us. There's a couple of things that already are increasing that are a little scary, that we'll talk about in a little bit. And, so there is some writing on the wall that we need to be aware of. Insurance is one of them, which we know that. All right. So what drives our budget? So people will ask this a lot to me, and I kind of want to just use this. And this is a new slide that we kind of developed this year. So this slide explains why budgets can increase even when programs stay the same. Because again, we get X amount of money one year, that money may increase a little bit, but it really may not. And that has to still continue to do everything we've done in the past. So in order for us to still continue what we've done year over year, we have to spend that money. And as things can change and increase. So staffing and benefits are the largest drive due to contracts, theft, insurance, and retirement. All of those things drive our budgets, right? Since we're in the people business, we need staff people to run our district. They need to get paid. They need insurance. They need retirement. All of those things drive the business. Special education costs are mandated, and they drive by student needs. One student into a special program can cost easily $100,000. So you have to budget for those special education programs. Transportation costs rise due to fuel, labor shortages, specialized routes, infrastructure, all the things I kind of talked about in the beginning. That can have a major impact on our budget. Facilities and capital costs are ongoing obligations to tie aging infrastructure and community needs. So, we have roof leaks, we have different things we want to do, we want to build, but also we want to have X. We want to have Y. The pool of money is very limited, so we have to plan accordingly. And that's when we say, we're not just planning for this year, we're planning for the future years. That's what bring down is so important to come in and talk about that.
There's been that $100,000 cap, and that stayed $100,000 for a very long time, but you can do that. $100,000 doesn't go as far as it used to. And is that going to change at any time?
That is a great question. Colleen, she's talking about the capital outlay project. So
Yeah, the one that keeps saying, yeah.
We are lobbying for that to change. There's been a lot of people. MISBA, I believe, has lobbied for that. NISCUS has lobbied for that. Our local legislative group has been lobbying for that. I have a legislative breakfast on Friday that we will be asking people to change that. You cannot get as much anymore for $100,000. So that $100,000 capital outlay project, we get money back each year. Expense-based state. It does need to be increased to 200, 250, 300, because then you can actually do more work. So we're really pushing the state for that. But again,
How long has it been 100?
Yeah.
forever. Yeah. Colleen, like 20, 30 years, or is it even more than that?
Oh my God. I can remember 15, 20 years ago, it being at $100,000. And every year they keep bringing it up as a legislative priority to raise it to 250. And every year it gets knocked down.
Is that
Yeah.
That's an expense-based aid, and that money's gotta come from somewhere,
Yeah, so
right?
Yeah.
So that,
comes out.
where does that pot come from, right? So that's,
Yep.
so yes, you're totally right.
Everything has consequences, but at the same time, what is the point of having that if it doesn't?
Right. $100,000 is not gonna get you much.
Yeah, you
It doesn't
actually
make
get the
Barely the roof.
you get the wall.
You can't even pave a parking lot. You can pave a very small section of a parking lot for $1,000. So instructional mandates and technology are compliance-based. Insurance and contracted services increase due to market conditions. And then revenues are constrained by state aid formulas and the New York State tax cap, right? So you know this, we all know this. We get very minimum increases in our foundation aid. The increases that we do see in our funding is due to expense-based aids. So that's what, when we're seeing increases, it's because of what we spend and the way that we spend. But other than that, we're not seeing huge increases when it comes to state aid funding, and we are limited by the tax cap. So, any questions on this? All right. Now, this is something that I put out in my recent newsletter to the community, and it really is just how are we funded? So this is us. We are 26 to 28% from state aid or federal aid. 2% from other grant or revenues, 67% from local property taxes. So the majority of our funding comes from our tax base. And that funding is year over year spending and paying for what we currently have and continuing and sustaining what we do. So that 2% increase year over year becomes an issue. Because let's say we get 2% from the state, we get 3% from our taxpayers, or we can't even get 3% from our taxpayers, but our overall increase is 8%. If that happens, that means we're going to have to do cuts or be creative in what we do. So that's where those restrictions are. We're always creative, but it's even more creative than what we can be.
Yeah.
But hopefully we don't have to. But this is when people ask, why can't we get this next year? My funds have already paid for this. Well, they continue to pay for this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, is that each year we have to sustain our programs. We want a first grade, we have to pay for that first grade the following year and the following year after that. Class sizes, we want to keep them where they are. That all counts into our budget. So any questions on that? I just wanted to kind of clarify that for some people. I'm not here in the room, but I do know some people have asked me those questions. I just want to make sure that I can kind of clear up some of this stuff.
We still like electricity.
We like electricity. We like everything that we need. So Colleen, this is all you.
Okay. So this year, as you started, there's a couple of items that have been coming out as far as legislative mandates or proposals, and some of those items that I'd like to mention that are notable. The current November database, which is again based on all of our filings from the ST3, this is overall for the state, estimates that school aid is now about $807 million for the 26-27 school year. Now that's absent any further data updates and any law changes that the governor may make in her budget, which, as we mentioned, is key in January. Overall foundation aid, which is the primary source of aid for most of our districts, that's all formula driven. It has nothing to do with expense based. It does have different factors in there as far as CPI or your wealth of a district. That has increased by $714 million, which is driven, as I mentioned, primarily by the what the governor had put in her latest formulas with the CPI or the inflation adjustment, which is added to your current base foundation aid from the prior year. That CPI is really right now is an estimate, but that is expected to change and subject to change in February. So whenever those January initial governor runs come out, that could change basically again on that CPI. I don't see a huge fluctuation in that CPI, but it can change. The projected growth for the foundation aid and state aid is the lowest that's been seen in recent years. And the reason what I've been reading is a lot of that is contingent, as we all know, the Medicaid aid that comes into the state has decreased significantly. So it's all how the governor plans to shift her aid buckets. And I think that's why right now that projected growth is lowest. And again, depending on how she moves forward with her January budget, we'll see how that trends or portends to how we will be. For Voorheesville, I don't see much of a change because a lot of the factors haven't changed from last year to this year with some slight improvements. So some of those other factors, as I mentioned, some of those formula changes that impact our foundation aid, is whether you're on formula or Save Harmless. Last year, Voorheesville was Save Harmless, but we'll be on formula, which more than on formula is based on your wealth and your pupil. So last year, our enrollment changes, we did have an increase based on what was reported. And I had a little number error there. So 25-26, we had 1,382 students, which they call the total aidable foundation units, or TAFUs. So this year, our foundation aid was based on the 26-27 enrollment at 1,393, which is an additional of 11 students, which is a little less than 1%. Again, all those little things add up to additional money. It may be small or look small, but it is additional aid that comes toward us. Our pupil need index. So our pupil need index is really tied to wealth factors and student for free reduced lunch and other factors. This year, it actually slightly increased, which I was surprised by 0.4%, which again equates to a slightly increased anticipated funding, which goes into that formula that the state has for the foundation aid. Our wealth measurement actually decreased slightly. Now, so when you talk about the wealth measurement, that's a number of different factors. When that goes down, so it's one of those bittersweet factors that come into play. You don't like to see your wealth going down, but on the inverse side of that, it helps us with more aid. So with that wealth measurement going down slightly, a little less than 3%, it increased what they now call as the state sharing ratio, which gives us, again, a little bit more of that foundation aid. So I anticipate us seeing a little bit more of that foundation aid moving forward.
Any questions before we get into the next one?
I'll throw out one wrinkle if it happens. Universal child care, which I've heard rumblings that the governor may want to get behind. I think it may be too late to make it into her budget and state of the state. I think there's way too much work that has to happen, but yeah, I would imagine that universal child care would cover like up until pre-K, right? But then if the expectation is that the state is providing child care,
Then pre-K they would have to bring in some pre-K funding and change the pre-K funding formula.
exactly, right. So we'll see what happens with that, but that would be potentially good for us because the current funding for pre-K is not
Right.
enough for us to really sustain the program.
Right, and I've been still advocating to increase that from that, because we still were at the original 5,400 for flat certified or anything, not getting any changes. So everybody's still advocating to change the pre-K formulas to have it be equitable across the board for all districts. So that would be great to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that goes into it, I'd be interested to see where all that funding comes from, because the pot is only so big, so it's taken from other places.
Correct.
That is right.
Yeah.
Any questions on this? Kelly, and I do have a question. I could be completely wrong. I think I am. District wealth measurement does not play into our tax cap, or does it?
That is your property tax growth, not your wealth measurement. So how the district is not the district's evaluation is as far as assessment properties, it's the growth in the district as far as their taxable base. That doesn't come into play. The wealth measurement is for your foundation aid formulas. You'll see as we move forward, you see that calculation for the property tax cap.
So it doesn't impact the tax levy.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
So school buses. Here is what we're thinking about at this moment in time. As you all know, electric school buses, you still have to start purchasing them as of 2027. By 2032, you're supposed to be only buying electric school buses. As you know, we cannot fill half of our routes with electric buses through our study that we've done, but there are some routes that we can do. And we still, if this still comes to fruition, we do really need to start buying electric buses. Because that turnover and change, it's going to happen. So we are looking at one large diesel bus. We only do 72 passenger buses from this point forward. The more buses, more seats we have on a bus, more kids we can put on, more routes, more kids that we can put on a route. So we buy the larger buses at this point. We're not buying the 65 or the smaller passenger buses. And we are looking at a large school bus. Colin, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yep. So the large electric school bus, the district did submit a grant back in January of 2025. I did reach out to see where that grant was, and they weren't really forthcoming with giving us any positive news other than the fact that it's still under review, and didn't really give us any more information, which is kind of not helping us. The one good thing, the district was very great in foresighting and planning ahead of time, that you do have a reserve set aside last year for over 500K, which will help us in that electric bus. That was very good planning on the district's part. So the big difference, and this has always been a contention amongst all school districts, is electric buses are aided over 8 years. So if you think about an electric bus, that electric bus, one bus is probably about the 3 times of a cost of a diesel bus. And then you're getting aid over 8 years versus your traditional diesel buses aided over 5 years. They keep talking about how they're going to change some of that. There's legislation out there, but I haven't seen anything. But when we go back to the electric school bus, we did meet with Leonard. They came out when they delivered our last 2 buses. And when we talked about the electric school bus, one of those buses is well over $500,000. They are still pending giving us a quotation. I'm curious to see what it's going to come out with. It's been over a month and a half, so I'm curious to see why it's taking so long. And then we'll definitely get more of a feel of where we're heading in that area. Obviously, along with the buses is the infrastructure as far as buying the chargers and all the ancillary items too.
We have the conduit, so all we have to do is run the electric to it.
Chargers.
So
Yep.
everything is built in, but we did not put everything into it yet because we knew that depending on when we buy those and what's outdated and the technology. So we're
Right.
trying to be very careful when we're purchasing this equipment.
Strategic.
The lifespan of the battery, I feel like.
So the lifespan of the battery is, they say 10 years, but the studies have shown that it's been less than that. And also with the wear and tear, depending on your cold factors, your hills, and other components of the battery can even go down less than 8 years. So that's some of the concern that goes along with it, is that your bus may not last as long as the aidable aspect of it.
Are improvements coming along?
I haven't heard a ton. There will be a lot of talk coming up this budget season about this. This has already been a hot topic. There's a ton of different circles talking about electric buses and the cost and everything, what they're expecting us to do, and even if you could do hybrid or not. Like, I mean, there's a lot of different conversations coming in and out of this. Again, I think a diesel bus telling was it $230,000 for a 72 passenger diesel bus?
Yeah.
Or even,
Yep.
right? So
Good.
it's
Yeah.
probably double, a little bit over double for an electric bus.
Crazy.
Do you know what the battery drivetrain warranty is on those?
What was that question?
Battery drivetrain warranty?
Drivetrain warranty?
I'll give you an example. I have an EV. My battery is warranted for 120,000 miles for 8 years, guaranteed against less than 30% degradation. Right. So is what sort of warranty is on the battery packs on these? I'm sure there is one. Just wondering what it is.
Yeah, that honestly, I don't know. Hopefully they'll mention that when they send us the proposal on all the options, because they did have options for bigger batteries. But again, that I don't know as far as how long those warranties are. So we'll see that hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Any questions on this? Kelly, this is you as well.
Okay. So just to, those benchmark key lines, key timelines for our budget planning, we'll be looking at our tax cap. Obviously, the tax cap takes into consideration our debt service. We did have some new financing this year, so we'll be reviewing that. And obviously, some of those are pilots. We had a number of pilots that have come on, so those will be showing up in our tax cap this year. And the tax cap, as we all know, started in 2011. It's hard to believe. It was such a crazy time back in 2011, now in its 15th year. It has its pros and cons. It's good. Some of it's good for the taxpayers. Most of it is kind of restrictive for districts, but districts have adapted to it and have worked around it. I think, become much more efficient in their budget planning as well. Our allowable levy tax growth factor over the first 14-year period, we don't have this year's yet because we're working on the numbers. Our lowest was at a little less than 1% in 2016 to the highest of 8% in 2024, which the district didn't go up to 8% in 2024. So the tax base growth factors is what Frank was referring to when we were talking about the formula, going back to the wealth factor. The tax base growth factor actually had a slight decrease this year from last year, which basically says there's not housing growth, must have housing or other development growth dropped slightly from last year to this year, which is your tax base, which is part of that tax cap formula.
And one thing about pilots, I'm going to say this, but you can fix it if you, I'm going to say it in more plain terms, is the pilots that you put on can negatively impact your tax cap, correct?
Pilots, yeah. So pilots, pilots, so when you think about your tax base, pilot is payments in lieu of taxes, in case anybody doesn't know what that means. So you have an overall tax base. Those pilots aren't part of your tax base. So you still have to include them in your tax cap factor. But it's detrimental as far as the proportionality when it gets split amongst your municipalities because it's not part of that tax base.
And the larger the pilot, say like for Alice Topco, it can be good as the years go on, but that first initial year can negatively impact your tax cap. The next year, you can make it up because it doesn't play into that factor for that first year. That first year, it can limit the amount of growth that you can have in your taxes.
The majority of the time when those pilots come off, then they look for a levy reassessment on their properties at a lower value, typically. So if we look back, you want me to do this one, Frank?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
I see when numbers and percent signs, it's always you.
Okay. So looking back over the last couple of years, I thought it would be nice to give everybody an idea of what you have done in the last 5 to 6 years. So you have really maintained a good level of spending. I know in 24-25 you had a spending increase, but I know that was primarily due to some debt service. 25-26, you really kept your spending down to less than 1%. Your increase was less than 1%. But in your levy increase was 5.97. So if we looked back at the 24-25, and I think it showed the property tax cap, you could have gone up to 8%. You only went to 3.75. You always have that option as a board, if you wanted to go with as high as the levy increase or the tax cap calculation, but you chosen to maintain a pretty steady levy increase for your taxpayers.
All right. And so the next one is really where we are. This is our budget calendar. Yep. And as you know, February 2nd is our upcoming one for our draft. And we'll also have Bernie Donegan here for our long-range financial plan. So it's going to be a longer meeting. February 23rd is candidate petitions are available. Can't speak tonight, apologize. March 1st, we'll submit our tax calculation. March 2nd, Board of Ed meeting. April 1st, publication of legal notices of school budget hearing and budget vote. April 13th is our final budget presentation. And then April 20th is the deadline for the candidates petition. And keep on going. You can read it. I don't need to go through it all. Real quick though, May 6th is the budget brochure mailed. May 19th is our budget vote. And the budget hearing is the 13th. It's a little bit different than our typical because you have to have it in a certain window. So that May 13th is the window of time frame that we have to have it from the budget hearing to the vote itself. So the last thing, questions. And that was a lot. All right.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you.
And this is also posted on the agenda as well.
Yes. Good.
That's it. Unless I'm done.
All right, with that, we'll move to item 4.1, the minutes for the regular meeting. They're not attached at this point. I don't see them. But would anyone like two of them? Should we leave it for anyone? Or do you want to leave it? I don't
They're not on here.
Let's,
I guess if you go to the summer meeting, there's the minutes. I think that it should be trying to switch it.
Or are they on the wrong one?
Not the wrong one, but in the minutes of the summer meeting section.
view the minutes. I'm doing that. Okay, yep, looking at that. That's when the cross-country team came in. It's all good.
Okay.
So could everyone
Yep.
take a
I'll move it.
One second.
Favor?
Aye.
Oh, boy. Please hold while I go back to our regular schedule. With that, we move to financial reports. There are a number of financial reports presented, the Student Association. So on item 5.1, and item 5.2, the claims auditor updates. Are there any questions or comments, or would anyone like to move those? A joint.
I'll move them.
5.1 and 5.2, second?
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have personnel items, 5.3. Any questions or comments? Or would anyone like to move that?
I'll move them.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Items 5.4 and 5.5, we can do as a consent agenda together. If there are any questions or comments, bring them forward or else move.
Should we keep it going? I'll move them.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. With that, we have item 5.6, we're going to make a motion to not actually consider this one. And Frank, did you go over this? We're going to discuss it a little bit.
Yeah, so RV and I also discussed it as well.
Just,
Yeah, I'll make the motion to remove this item from the agenda. I think it was put on for the board to be aware of, but it doesn't require us to approve it, consistent with our board policies on, purchasing, contracting.
It's not our purview.
Yeah, this is not the type of contract that we typically approve. We don't approve similar contracts for ice hockey rentals, AFROs, Orchard Creek for golf.
Yeah.
This is just not something that we've
We do produce.
done
Yes.
for produce, but produce because it's over the
Right.
limit in state law.
Yeah.
This is under the limit for state law. It's not required that the board approve it, so I'm requesting that we remove it.
Yeah, it's more of a
Remove it
way.
from the agenda.
Yeah, still do it, we'll go through with it. But just remove from there.
Right, the district will take care of it. So, RG's gonna move that we strike this from the agenda. Would anyone like to second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we are approving to not approve the 5.6, but rather to let it go back to the district to handle and the administrative. Okay, there are some changes to the substitute pay rate, primarily, well, to the nurses substitutes. And would anyone like to, we could do that as a consent agenda if anyone wants to. There's also an MOA with PTA. So items 5.7 and 5.8 as a consent agenda. I know nursing substitutes are very hard to get and they have a lot of certification that we need. It's great to have them qualified and paid for their time. So,
I'll move it.
second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I just state that RN rate, the LPN rate is comparable or better than other districts. And the RN rate now is in line with other districts in our surrounding areas, so next to us.
So please come. Thank you. Thank you for listening. And with that, we move to old business. Was there an audit committee meeting recently?
It was short. We met earlier tonight. We reviewed our regular reports, including the claims auditor reports that we just approved. We did a bit of a deep dive on state aid output reports and analysis. So that was looking back at what we projected for state aid for the current year and then where we were as of December. And as far as foundation aid, we were exactly where we thought we would be, no surprise. And some of our expense-based aids were not where we projected them to be, but because we were spending less. So overall, not a bad place to be. The difference in terms of where we thought we would be in terms of revenue and state aids and where we are is a difference of about 1.5%. So really minimal. And I think reflects good job from our finance staff in terms of projecting where we would be. And then I think that was really it. We talked through school lunch fund, continuing the trend. More students are eating at school, which is terrific. And due to the increases from state aid, we're almost break even, which is really good and kind of unheard of for this point in the year. So all good news.
All right. With that, we go to quickly. You guys meet?
No, I think our next meeting for my calendar is January 20th.
All right. And facilities. Did you meet?
We did not.
Okay. And policy.
Yes, policy met on December the 19th, and we reviewed with a number of, stakeholders.
Was it Friday afternoon?
We had 4710 grading systems. It was just the first read version that we had on the agenda last time. I think that we had a good discussion with administrators and faculty alike in terms of things that we have been questions about in the draft policy. We studied the next meeting, say, large part digesting that feedback, incorporating the feedback, and with the anticipation that we would have policy, or that we would have a final read usually for February. Then we'll pivot into the regulation as far as to implement the policy. And it's my hope and expectation, I think of the other members of the committee as well, that we would follow that same path in terms of regulation. Viewed, we will be given stakeholders, not only those within the school, but certainly those outside of the school. We certainly welcome like that feedback, and so that's where we are with regard to policy.
Actually had a request for the policy. Thank you, Frank, for setting that up. Most recent version. I was going to send them one. And I was like, wait, I don't even know what the most recent.
Yeah, that was easier.
I'm not touching that one.
Right.
Yeah. Can I just clarify one aspect? The regulation is going to be shot out first in buildings with staff. Everybody do that, faculty meetings, discuss it. Then they're going to help draft that regulation and bring it up back. So there's going to be probably a good month and a half without board involvement for a little bit first to really have like voices heard and built into it, and then bring that back in to the board. Probably I'm guessing more March, April, probably April, on where that is, just to give people enough time to digest it, really dig into it, really have, substantive conversations.
So the policy committee might actually touch things that aren't.
That are not 4710, maybe in April. Might have an opportunity to do it.
Thank you guys for working on this. I know it's a really big lift, and
It's a positive.
it's, but it's like putting an octopus in a outfit or something. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we have two items. I think we can do them. Can we do them together?
We should do them together.
I think we can. One is an acceptance of donations, and the other is an amendment to move those to different codes. Excuse me. I like this. But this is again for the voting machines.
It is.
That's amazing. So would anyone like to move 7.1 and 7.2, or should we discuss them?
I'll move it.
Any discussion? Or second. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I just say one quick thing?
Oh.
I just want to thank Voorheesville Community School Foundation, also Albany Community Foundation. We're now roughly $6,000 of grant funded into the budget machines and the voting machines.
Awesome.
It's roughly a 17. Colleen, was it $17,000 for voting machines?
Yep.
So
No hand count for us.
no hand count, but we're getting like we're very like I'm grateful. We still have a couple more grants out as well. You know, I'm trying to do some grants like 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 to be able to offset that cost. So I'm really thankful for the people who are awarding us the grants and just appreciative of that.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you, but thank you for that. But this is an amazing thing to happen because district needs these voting machines. When we had to do the hand count, I think it took like 12 hours of like 8 people working, and it was Jess is still having some nightmares, I'm guessing. But yeah, it's a great way to do it accurately, and it's a big change from what we had when that was actually covered by the district. Thank you very much for the donations and support for grant funding. With that, we move to the other business, the opportunity for the public to be heard. This is the second opportunity for the public to speak. And we typically look at things that were discussed during the meeting. If anyone would like to come forward, same slide, or if we just the opportunity for the board to be heard at 8.2.
I forgot to say this earlier. Ski club starts this week.
Yes, Thursday.
So thank you, Suzanne Hartman. who
Yes.
is the volunteer advisor for that. And to all the parents who chaperone, bus drivers who get the kids there. It's a lot of fun for the kids. So
Great opportunity.
I'm glad it's happening again this year.
Yeah, she's done so much to get there. I also want to point out that we did start the executive session at 6:16. We had an anticipated executive session, was going to start at 6, but we recognized that the agenda for it was a little bit shorter than needed, so we started at 6:16. And as is our new plan of action, we roll from, if we have multiple meetings stacked, we don't wait. We have sat here for 20 minutes just staring at each other. We now roll straight through. So that's what we did. And so that brings us to the item 9.1. There's nothing else. Is the board Sure. The dates to remember. For Groundhog Day will be the next board meeting, which will also be the budget hearing, I believe. And I might be on that one. And that's all we've got. Is there anything else? Or would anyone like to move us to adjourn?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Be safe. Have a great evening.